Today I want to talk about symptoms leading to relapse that are not necessarily for using, but it could be for self-sabotage, when you get on your own way. So these are the red flags that you can look for, and before you go downward that sabotage spiral. So stay tuned. 12 symptoms leading to relapse. The first one is exhaustion. When you allow yourself to become overly tired or poor in health. Sometimes when we make the decision to stop doing what is hurting us, and not necessarily only exclusive to drugs, it can be to alcohol, it can be perfectionism, righteousness. You can be an addict of those things too. And those are points that I always like to make. But when you make the decision to let go of these things, you might get that feeling that you have to make up for that time lost, for all that time when you were lost in your addiction. But sometimes it is better to give yourself time to recover, because rest is important for your mental health and well-being. Instead of just jumping back in everything that you want to do, you have to allow yourself to recover from the damage done. If you feel well, you will have more mental clarity. Unlike if you feel exhausted, it can cause you to make decisions out of your emotional mind, and you can't really think and make good decisions. And this is a symptom of relapse, because when you're very exhausted and tired, this can lead to self-sabotage and make you fall back into the things that you just recovered from. And it can lead you to being exhausted and want to numb, right? So make sure that rest is one of your non-negotiables and priorities. The second is dishonesty. That's a big red flag. When you start to make up unnecessary lies and excuses, you start to rationalize, making excuses for things that you know you shouldn't do, or making excuses for not doing something that you should do. So you have to be cognizant that these are red flags of relapse when you start to lie to yourself and rationalize. Because you think you're lying to your family and your friends, or to yourself, but you really are not. And this is a red flag. The third is impatience. When things you feel like they're not happening fast enough, because it's so hard to build things and so easy to destroy. So it's hard to adjust to that difference of rhythm. And when we're trying to build again, you have to give yourself time and progress to create space for doing it. So don't get impatient. Impatience can lead you to relapse and self-sabotage. Argumentativeness is another red flag. When you start arguing over small things or ridiculous things or point of views, and you feel like you need to be always right so you can feel and appear to be in control. If you start to hear yourself, why can't you agree with me? And you start looking for excuses, to use or to drink or to self-sabotage or engage in risky behaviors. You start to get argumentative over things that are really not that important, and they become huge. So that's a red flag. So just tune in and notice if this is something that you're doing. The next one is depression. Depression is a red flag. When you're in despair and unaccountable, helplessness and hopelessness show up. This might occur in cycles and should be dealt with and talked about. So the best way you can deal with depression is to make some healthy planning and take action. Another thing that people forget is that they want to stop doing the bad things, but you need to have something to replace them. Otherwise, because they had a function. So have a plan. If you don't and you start to feel depressed, that's a red flag. The next red flag is frustration. When you start to feel very frustrated with people in life and things aren't working out like you expected them to be. But remember, it is part of the process. Everything's not going to be a smooth ride or like you pictured it or like you wanted it, and accepting things as they are can take away this frustration. The next is self-pity. Feeling sorry for yourself, being like, this only happens to me, or why do I have to be the one going through this? Why am I the only one? Or the only one that needs this? Why am I the only one that destroys themselves? Why is it that nobody appreciates none of the things I do for them? Some points might be valid. Just be cognizant that staying in self-pity is a red flag. Cockiness and being arrogant. When you think you made it and you recovered and you don't need anything. And that you're recovered now. You don't need anything. And you no longer fear the chemical dependency. You no longer fear your risky behaviors. So you start to take risks, right? You start to feel like you can prove others wrong and that you don't have a problem, and you put yourself in dangerous situations. And these things will wear you down and put your defenses down. And then little by little, without you knowing, you relapse. Complacency. Drinking was the farthest thing of my mind. So it's kind of like cockiness and arrogance. You always have to stay vigilant. You always have to stay focused and stay stable. And that's something I kind of talk in my book and my program a lot, that consistency is very important. Vigilance is very important. So letting go of your discipline, it's not good. A little fear is good to keep you accountable. And don't think you're powerless because you need to be vigilant. It's just part of your self-care, and it's what empowers you. More relapses occur when things are going well. I've changed, why haven't others? Well, this is an attitude. Expecting too much from others. I've changed, why haven't others? It's a plus if people change their attitude toward you, but if they don't, you have some responsibility in your previous actions and how they're treating you. You can't expect people to change when you have. It's a harsh truth, but as soon as we accept it, it will bring peace with the fact that we've changed and maybe others have not, and lower your expectations from others and just focus on yourself. The next red flag is letting up on disciplines. Stop practicing the things that brought you to balance. Whatever was bringing you peace, whatever was making you feel good, you stop practicing. And this could be your daily meditation, good sleep, or going to a group to stay accountable, to stay with people who are in the same track and doing a daily inventory. So letting go of all of these practices and practicing skills to cope to stay healthy can make you feel like, I'm bored of this again. But you can't afford to be bored, because relapse, remember, has cost you so much. And the last one is, it can't happen to me. I'm like, you're immune to it. Well, you're not immune to all human beings' weaknesses. This is dangerous because when we get careless, anything can happen to us. We're actually putting ourselves in a vulnerable position. So stay vigilant. And I hope you found these red flags helpful and to keep you accountable and to stay in alignment. And it's programming your mindset to succeed. And let me know which ones are the ones that resonated the more and are the most helpful to you in the comments. Thank you. See you in the next video.